Tara. Coach Steve, Coach Tara, welcome to the Pure Prospects podcast.
Hey, Cody, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having us on.
you two are like two of my favorite people, not only in basketball but off the court as well. You guys, you've always been there for me. We had a great camp last summer. Just solid people. You guys went and got the jerseys and everything. But Steve, I want to get into your journey. Before becoming one of the winningest coaches in Kentucky history, your coaching journey included like serving as an assistant under the legendary Billy Hicks at Scott County and coaching at the college level as assistant coach at Union College. Take us back to your early days. How did your coaching journey begin, and what have you learned from those experiences?
Cody, to be honest with you, it even goes back to my playing days. I never touched a basketball until my eighth grade year, and I happened to have Billy Hicks as my social studies teacher. And he said, "Why don't you come out?" Because at that time, I was going to be a football star, a baseball star, and I hadn't even touched a basketball. And he asked me to come out. I came out to open gym. And, I went on to play for him 4 years. And he always told us, once you graduate from college, he said, give me a call. So I played for the Step Brothers at Alice Lloyd College. They were known for some of the most high scoring offenses from the mountains that you've ever seen, as far as, their teams and them personally. They were offensive minded coaches. Went on to play then for Phil Cunningham, who has had multiple stints at the college level. Who's probably one of the greatest X and O coaches I've ever been around. Then Brian Evans at Union College gave me a chance to be a student slash grad assistant for a couple of years after my playing days were over. And next thing you know, Tara calls Coach Hicks, and uh, in 1998, 1997, we moved to Georgetown, and I was on the boys' staff with Coach Hicks for 3 years. And Tara had already, she'd accepted a position with the girls. So, my coaching journey was actually because of a lot of other people who invested time into me. From all my coaches that I played for, and then Coach Hicks, you know, to have him as a teacher, to have him as my coach, then to have the chance to, in 1998 we won a state championship. In '99 we were got beaten. We were state runner up, and then 2000 we were Final Four. So we had three major appearances in the state tournament with me on the bench with him and learning. And then, 2010, we're in the state championship game with the girls, and Coach Hicks is there supporting us like he did, throughout our entire career. So there's a lot of people who put a lot into us and allowed us to um, be a part of their journey. And so that's what we wanted to, that's where we are with our career. We've put a lot into what we do, and we love what we do, and we want our kids to, always know that we're there for them.
So, what was it like coaching under Billy Hicks?
Well, Coach, we always told him by the time we moved up here in '97, we told him, Coach, you've gotten soft. Coach was intense. We pressed. Everything we did was up tempo. Um, Coach always, he was the best practice coach I've ever been around in my life because he built everything around player development. Coach was all about relationships. Coach was all about keeping his kids fed. I mean, we ate good. I mean, Coach was one of the most incredible cooks you could ever imagine. When Terry and I got married, and Coach, we would go to Coach's house once a week and eat. And he would give us, him and Betsy, they would give us food, and we would always, it was something. It was all about family. Coach, you know, taught us how a program is to be ran, how you treat people, how you treat your kids, and at the same time he taught a lot about winning. It was that the cliche or the catchphrase now is culture. Well, coach didn't have the words culture. We just had a way of doing things. He loved to fish. He loved to tell stories. He loved history. and I miss him so much now. He meant so much to myself as a player, as a person, to our family. I mean, to Tara. I mean, he he accepted Tara in like he'd known Tara his entire life when we came to Georgetown, and then with Colton. Colton was just, I mean, barely big enough to his knee, and he's out there, uh, taking pictures and working with Colton, and just a very special time and memories with Coach X and his entire family. Just meant so much to us.
That's awesome. How did your time at Union College prepare you, becoming a head coach at the high school level?
I'd suffered my second knee injury at Sue Bennett when it was still in session there, and Coach Cunningham made a call because he was trying to help me, and Brian Evans brought me on to his staff. That was my first really taste of coaching. Uh, got my first taste of recruiting. I did some of the local recruiting in the area, and not that I was the one talking, about the scholarships, but I was the one that was there to support, show kids that we wanted them at Union College. Brian was, or Coach Evans, he was one of the most relaxed, positive men that I've ever been around. From our coaches meetings, um, you know, at the NAIA level, you did a lot of van trips. We didn't have a lot of charters, but we would take the box van, and from me getting lunch to I lived in the gym. My actual room was in the locker room. So it's funny.
Nice.
I did my, I did my clothes. I washed my clothes. I washed the gear. I did the floor. I literally stayed in the gym. So that was my home. And Brian Evans, I thank the world of him. He gave me my first opportunity, first taste of actually coaching. And then, next thing you know, I mean, I'm an education major, and I'm an education major so I can coach. And because back then, they really wanted you to be a teacher to be a coach. And now, if the law's changed a little bit, but Brian gave me that first chance, and to sit on the bench, and to learn, and to work in practice. I mean, it was we had groups, and then we did a lot of individual stuff, and then to involve us into we were uh, it was a great experience.
What were some of the biggest lessons you learned early in your coaching career?
I think early in my career, I was a little more stubborn, a little more hard headed than I am now. Um, you know, I I grew up with Coach X. Never played one possession of zone. With the Step Brothers, never played one possession of zone. Uh, with Coach Cunningham, never played one possession of zone. And so when I came to high school and got the high school job as a head coach, I was like, we're never going to play zone ever, ever. It was a bad word to say the word zone. But one of the lessons that over time, it was you know, being hard headed um, didn't work as well, especially with Tara. Tara would definitely let me know when she felt like we need to change, and the lesson was, to be a little more open, because like I said, I'd only known man to man, and throughout the years, it was I changed our style a little bit, and that's on the court. The biggest lesson I've ever learned with all my coaches is player relationships. It's about relationships with your players, about those kids, and now, 25 years later, I would also say it's about relationships with your parents. We've got parents now that we're such good friends with after their daughters have graduated. Now their daughters are having babies, and they're grandparents now, and to have those relationships, and to be at those kids' weddings and see those parents. I think on the court, my lesson was to be a little more open minded, and off the court, the ultimate lesson is it's about the kids and those relationships that you develop, um, long past basketball.
When did you? I mean, did you always know coaching would be your lifelong profession?
No, no, there is. I'm a lot like a lot of teenage kids right now. I grew up wanting to play for the University of North Carolina. I never could understand why I didn't. I had that dream of what if, and my first really thought process of coaching was after I got hurt. I'd had one knee surgery in high school, and then once I tore my knee up again uh, at Sue Bennett, I didn't want to leave the game. I love the game. I love to compete. Um, but my body had just kind of ran its course at an early age, and coaching was a way that I could still stay in the game. It was a way that I could compete. It was a way that I could pour into other kids the way so many of my coaches have poured into me.
That's awesome. Tara, your career has been equally impressive. What inspired you to get into coaching and working with young athletes?
Well, much like Steve, well, I'm a little different, I guess I should say. I had a love for basketball at an early age. Uh, Growing up, I was always out in the backyard, shooting and watching the game. And I started playing on the boys' basketball team actually in elementary school. And because then in Estill County, where I'm from, they didn't have just girls teams only. So I played on the boys' team, and I developed my love for the game there because I felt like I had something to prove. You're one of the very few girls on the boys' team, and you got to work extra hard to earn your spot. But I was always passionate about the game, and and I played all the way up through high school and college. And when those days came to an end, I was like, okay, now what? I missed the game. There's an emptiness there, and I felt like the best way to stay connected to the game and be involved was to coach. And like Steve said, to be able to give back to young people and pour into their lives and teach them the game that I love and make a difference in their life. So that's what really drove me to coaching. My passion to play basketball and still stay involved and connected to the sport.
So, who were your biggest influences?
My biggest influences growing up um, was was probably my parents. My mom pushed me to be very competitive and to never give up, um, and my stepdad also. And I would also say my elementary basketball coach, Randall Christopher. He was the boys basketball coach, and he always pushed me to set goals, to continue to improve. And then later on, when I began high school, I had Mike Kindred, who was a longtime coach at Montgomery County, who's got a couple state runner-ups over there with Beth Weiss. And They were just really, really influential for me. Taught me great work ethic and how to get in the gym, how to never stop working, and they has helped me develop my passion and love for the game.
What do you remember the most about your first coaching opportunity?
My first coaching opportunity was at Scott County, actually, as the JV coach and assistant. And I held that position until, just a couple years ago when we switched over to boys. But that was my first opportunity with Coach John Shelley at Scott County High School. I remember I interviewed actually with the athletic director and Coach Shelley in Coach Billy Hicks's office. And they asked me some questions, and I had my little portfolio and all that stuff. But we interviewed in there, and I was so excited to get started. I was nervous, and I guess my what I remember the most is like my very first game. It was a home game, and I was the JV coach, and we had kind of low numbers that year. We had about 9 kids, and we were in foul trouble that night. So my very first game coaching, I had to end up playing with 4 because we
Oh,
had we had so many foul out. So at the end, we played with 4. So we were kind of like Hoosiers, in the movie. We had to play with 4 people there. So that's the thing I remember about my first game. But great memories looking back and a great start there.
did you ever realize you would get to 375 career victories and 7 undefeated seasons?
No, honestly, I never dreamed of that. And, I didn't, you don't get caught up in that kind of stuff. You just go year by year, practice by practice, game by game, and you try to develop players and give them the best that you can. We've been very fortunate at Scott County to have a lot of talent and a lot of good players who are, hard workers and, willing to get in the gym and work. And we've been very fortunate to coach a lot of wonderful young ladies and young men. And I feel very blessed that I was able to be part of that.
That's awesome. One thing I wanted to discuss today or tonight is a topic that really doesn't get much attention. So, Steve, you've coached the boys basketball at the college level, coached boys at the boys level at Scott County as an assistant, and then built one of Kentucky's most successful girls basketball programs. Sometimes people try to separate coaching boys and girls basketball, but your career proves that success is success. What would you say to people who believe coaching girls basketball is somehow different than coaching boys basketball?
The bottom line, it comes down to relationships and knowing your kids. Um, you know, I always said when I was with the girls, the game is played below the rim. Well, you go to the boys' side, with the exception of there may be 5 to 10 plays above the rim on the boys' side. The game is also played below the rim. Um, it's um, I've never looked at it as, well, boys do this and girls do this. We coached our girls just like we coached our boys. We coached our boys just like we coached our girls. Kids are who they are. I mean, some kids they really need that extra push. Some kids can't handle that extra push. They need a hug on the back, they need a high five, and some kids you need to motivate a little more. And that's not anything different in the boys and the girls side. You know, I've had boys with attitudes. I've had girls with attitudes. I've had girls that'll run through a wall for you. I've had boys that'll run through a wall for us. There is not this big difference that everyone, or not everyone, but people will come out and say, kids are kids. You're going to have kids that are competitive. You're going to have kids who aren't as competitive. You're going to have kids who put the extra time in, boy or girl. We've had some really, really, really talented young ladies come through our program who can flat out score, who can flat out shoot the ball. We've had some guys who can flat out score and flat out shoot the ball. I mean, strength wise, physically, I mean, there may be some differences there with our weight programs. We did run our weight programs a little different. Uh, you know, Dylan Diorio, we hired him. He was a D1 strength coach from Campbell University to come in and work with our boys. And we ran our girls program a little different. I wish we'd had Dylan with our girls. We may have had a few more that was dunking. We had you know, um, one kid, Malia Williams, who was actually dunking with us as a girl. Uh, I wish we'd have had him, and we may have had a few more. But I'm just not into the way you coach girls one way, you coach boys the other way. I'm not into that. These are kids. These are kids who want to win. These are kids who want to be pushed, and that's the way it is. I mean, I live with, married to one of the most competitive women on this earth. And there's days that she's not in the mood to hear it, and guess what? There's days I'm not in the mood to hear it. Just like our kids, boy or girl, they're kids, they're humans. And so I'm not, if you're buying or selling, I'm selling the theory of you coach boys and you coach girls differently. I'm totally against that. I think it's about your kids. I love them. Whether it's a boy or a girl, I'm their biggest fan. We're going to put them in a position to try to be successful, and that's our job. And if we don't do it, then we need to maybe look at what we're doing, or maybe look at what we can do better. Whether it's a boy or a girl, or whoever we're coaching, whenever we're coaching, and no matter the age. I mean, Tara's been with me. We started coaching Colton's flag football at what, 5 or 6. We were coaching
Yeah.
flag football. And she's been on the football sidelines with me. We've been on the travel baseball side. We've coached girls, at different levels with camps. And so again, I'm selling the theory that, boys and girls are different when you put them on that court.
Yeah, Tara, what's your thoughts on that? Same.
I totally agree with Steve. A basketball player is a basketball player. The relationships, and you got to deal with them. Like you said, they're kids. I guess my biggest hang up or my biggest thing is, and I'm not saying everyone, but I feel like, some people may think that girls basketball, traditionally is slower, they're not as athletic, it's boring and things like that. And I don't mean to sound bad, but, it's not that way. It all depends on style because there are boys teams who may play slow also. It depends on the style of play and what you expect out of a player. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. You can play exciting and play up tempo, and you can have a high skill set. Uh, you know, uh, when we coached the Scott County girls, there were many years. I mean, I don't remember the exact years, but we led the whole entire state of Kentucky in scoring, and that included boys and girls teams. So this thing about somebody will see a low score and say, "Oh, that must be a girl's score." That really kind of offends me because I've put my life work into the sport as a female, and I just want to stand up for females because there's a lot of girls out there that put just as much work in as guys do, and that's no knock on guys. I'm all for boys too. And, we have a son, but I think it's the same for girls and boys. There's skill level there. It doesn't matter the gender.
Yeah. My view is, if you can coach, you can coach. The fundamentals remain the same, right?
Right.
Uh, Boys and girls, you're about helping build relationships, teaching confidence, and trying to manage their culture. They're humans, they're young kids, so they're trying to learn more than basketball. So I want your guys' opinion. How much of coaching to you guys is about teaching and relationships?
Cody, oh my goodness, I mean, you're with me for sure. I'm thinking you're over the 98 percentile. I mean, it's uh, you've always heard some coaches talk about the gym's a classroom. I'm a firm believer in, we have a practice schedule just like we would have a lesson plan in the classroom. We try to stick to that practice schedule. But it's all about the fundamentals. It's all about the teaching of the game. It's all about the motivation, and then it's about how you handle the outcomes. Whether it's good or bad, how do you handle those outcomes? Tara and I, we're a husband and wife, and believe it or not, there's times we don't agree. And those kids that we've coached have seen that. They've seen how we don't agree sometimes, but they've also seen how it's okay to disagree sometimes. At the end of the day, we're a family, uh, and we try to treat our locker rooms like that. At the end of the day, we may fuss, we may not all agree. Our parents may not all agree. Our kids may not all agree. Tara and I don't always agree. But when it comes time to play and get between the lines, we're a family, and that's one of the big things with us that I'm a firm believer in getting them ready, not only while they're with us, but getting them ready for life after basketball. Because very few of our kids, in today's world with the portal now, you know, playing at the next level is tough. With the portal, until we get control of that, it's even tougher for high school kids to have an opportunity to play at the next level. So definitely those lessons. I just think that there's a lot that basketball can teach. It allowed us to see the world. I'd never seen the ocean. I'd never ever seen the ocean until we took a trip with the boys, and it was actually our honeymoon. We went down to Fort Myers, and so that was the first time I'd ever seen the ocean. And since we've taken a many a team to the ocean because a lot of those kids have never had an opportunity to go to the ocean. So lessons learned through basketball, through life. Um, that's what we've tried to instill in all of our teams and all of our kids. And now trying to install that into our own, which is, Coach Hicks always told me, he said, Steve, said you and Tara will be better coaches after you have a kid. And I was like, Coach, haven't you seen how much we're winning? We're winning. And he said, you'll become a better coach. And bless his heart, I get it. I mean, Colton's getting ready to turn 17, or he's turned 17, he may turn 18, next year and graduate. And, I think about now what he tried to teach us then. After you have your own and you see how other coaches deal with him, and you always want to be that coach that says, hey, every kid is an all-star. Every kid is somebody's all-star at home, and that's the way they want to be treated.
So, Tara, what parts of your guys' philosophy has remained the same regardless of who you guys coached?
Our philosophy, like you said, at first, like style of play, we always want to play up tempo. We always want to push the ball on offense and transition, and try to attack before the defense gets set. Uh, I mean, if you can attack and get an easy transition basket before the defense gets set, you don't have to come down and call, a lot of plays. And I'm not saying running plays is bad, but you get an advantage if you get early offense and get a break, get your head up. We're not big into dribbling a lot. If you can get your head up, throw the ball ahead, hit the wing, get a quick score, we're all for it. Our philosophy is player development. You got to get in the gym. You got to handle the ball. You got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to pass. You got to be able to do the fundamentals well. It doesn't matter if you're in kindergarten or if you're a senior. You got to have your fundamentals down. And, you can have 55 sets, but if you can't dribble and you can't shoot and you can't pass and you can't think the game, it doesn't matter how many plays you have in. You got to be able to play the game and think the game. And that's always been our philosophy offensively. And then defensively, we don't want to let teams set their offense. We either want to press to speed them up, and if they get in a half court, we want to run and jump trap. We want to take them out of their comfort zone and make them make bad decisions. And regardless of whether we're coaching boys, girls, AAU, or whatever we're coaching, that is our philosophy. And it's what we call organized chaos. A lot of basketball purists may not agree with that style. And there's a time and place. When you're trying to win a game, you need to get a good possession, and you're trying to run some clock at the end. You got to take care of the basketball and be smart. But you want your kids to have freedom and be able to play without worrying about messing up. And it's a fun style to play to showcase your abilities, and you can wear the other team down also.
So, Steve, why do great coaches succeed regardless if they're coaching boys or girls?
Yeah, I think it goes back to those relationships. It goes back to um, how you treat those kids, how you develop those kids. Um, again, you go to we used to go to a lot of clinics when we were, much younger, and uh, you would watch people write down every word being said. Um, and Gino, we heard Gino speak one year, and everything he was showing all these sets and showing all this and everything he does at UConn, and he stopped and said, "Now hang on." He said, "If none of you have Diana Taurasi," he said, "none of this." And he went, he used another choice words. He said, "None of this is going to work." And that stuck with me more than anything because you know in high school, you don't get to pick your talent. Those kids come through your system, your feeder systems. I mean, occasionally you'll have a kid move in, but I think being consistent in what you do is also what you'll see a lot of your coaches do. I mean, like Tara said, we put so much emphasis on ball handling, passing, shooting, and if you can't do that, it's just you're really putting yourself behind the eight ball because no matter how many sets you got, if you can't do the fundamentals and work on the fundamentals, I mean, it's not something you talk about, and it's not something you can expect kids to come in with nowadays. There's a lot of philosophies out there about people spend a lot of time doing things other than the fundamentals. We talk about we want to get 75 to 85 shots a game up, and in order to do that, you've got to be able to pass, dribble, shoot. Obviously, you got to be able to defend and create some, quicker shot opportunities. But I think your great coaches and your coaches who have had some success have been consistent with how they develop their teams year in and year out. And, you see those kids grow from, the middle school age until they're graduating, how they have improved over time and they understand the system. A lot of our assistant coaches were former players. They come through our system. So when they joined our staff, we weren't teaching the staff, "Hey, this is what we want. This is what we're looking for." They already knew it. They were like, "We did this when we played, and we didn't change a whole lot." So I think consistency is key, also, especially with your coaches who have been around for a while. Watching what they do and seeing how they play and how they coach, it doesn't change a whole lot over time.
So let's talk about the Scott County way with you guys. When people see the accomplishments, they see results. You guys had 485 career wins, 375 career wins. So you have a state runner up, 5 region championships, 15 district championships, Kentucky Coach of the Year honors, Kentucky Indiana All Star Coaching honors, a Miss Basketball, and a Gatorade Kentucky Player of the Year. But behind, all those accomplishments was that philosophy that you guys have. So what was the Scott County way?
I
What,
mean,
what what were the foundations of your program?
it went back to the old Carolina way. It was play hard, play smart, and play together. That was at the end of every. We always did our scouting reports, and our scouting reports always ended with when it said keys to victory, and it was play hard, play smart, and play together. We that was our foundation. Those three things. We always wanted to play harder. Didn't say anything about playing perfect. Didn't say anything about, you can't miss a shot, you can't turn the ball over. We just wanted to play harder. We wanted to play smarter. Uh, our scouting reports, depending on our team, some teams, our scouting reports were extremely detailed. Sometimes they were not as detailed. And then the biggest deal, we want to play together. We've always had our philosophy is, if you're open, shoot it, and if you're not, pass it. And the running joke in our locker room, and a lot of our players took this to heart. Least in doubt, fling it, and that's what we did. I talked to a prep coach last summer, and I told him, I said, "Coach, I'm gonna steal your quote." He said, "We would come down, we shoot the three, and pray to God." Man, I said, "I love that." I said, "Ours was least in doubt, fling it." So
I think that's
again, it's that.
Moravian Prep. I think
Yeah,
said that. I think, Coach. I think that.
it was great. I said, I don't know if I can put that on a shirt for a high school team, but it's just one of those foundations for kids. And Tara touched on this. We have the confidence. We put them out there on the floor. You make a mistake, next play. You miss a shot, next play. You miss 5 shots, next shot. Good shooters are going to hit. Kids are going to turn the ball over playing fast. Can't lose your mind. You can't lose what you do. You can't change what you do in the middle of the game because we had a turnover. Get through it. Get over it. I mean, if you're looking for 75, 85 shots a game, you're going to turn the ball over. You're going to take bad shots. You're going to take some shots that you probably shouldn't. And as a coach, you have to be able to live with that. And that was one of our foundations, and that was built into play hard, play smart, play together. Our kids have the confidence that their coaches know what they can do, and you know what? Let's let it fly. Let's have fun out here.
How did you guys sustain success over multiple decades?
Great kids, great parents, great administration. Um, just the facts are, I mean, our staffs that we've had were consistent. Coach Wilson, Glenn Wilson. I'm an only child. I never had a brother. Glenn Wilson is like my brother. We were on the bench together for 20 plus years. We had so many former players come back with us that I can't even, begin to talk about because they knew the system. They came back to be a part of it. We had great players in Scott County through the middle schools, uh, our middle school programs. When we were one school, a lot of times Scott County Middle and Georgetown Middle would be in the championship together. And we're there in a packed house, and we're like, both these teams we're getting ready to combine these teams. We had great administration, for a period of time in Scott County. We had, people who were supportive of us. We had people who were Waiting on us, Chip Southworth. I'll never forget. We lost a tough regional game, and it was probably about 11 o'clock, and he was waiting on us as we came in that night to get off the bus. And I'll never forget.
That was our principal at the
Yeah,
time.
that
Oh,
was our
okay.
principal. That was
Hmm.
our principal at the time. I mean, just an incredible gesture of he was there waiting on us in support. And we just got beat, and we were probably one of the better teams that year, and was expected to do win that game, and it didn't happen. And Mr. Southworth was there, uh, and all he was there was just to check on us, to make sure that we were all right, and tell us he was proud of us. Um, so when we were Scott County, it was something special. There was a split. The school split a few years ago, and things have changed a little bit since then. But there was a period of time when Scott County, when it was one school, it was definitely a powerhouse on the boys and girls side. For year in year out.
What made Scott County basketball different?
You know, Tara, I give Tara a hard time about this a lot of times, and I'm sure you can add to this, Tara. We were coming back from the interview when she interviewed, and Coach Hicks was having camp, and we were discussing about where moving up here. There's no guarantee of a job. 1997, education was booming, so there were jobs available, but at the time we didn't have a job, teaching job. We had been offered, she had been offered the JV job, and Coach Hicks had offered for me to join his staff, but we were like, what do we do? We're just out of college. We have no money. We have no income. And Tara's
Oh
like,
boy.
it's the heartland. It's the heartland of basketball. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, it's the heartland of basketball. And it always stuck with me because we actually came up here on faith. We stepped out on faith a little bit because we graduated from Union College together, and we sat in the parking lot, and we were like, what's next? What do we do now? And so God was good to us, and for us to land in Georgetown as two young kids, and to now, we're still here 29 years later. It's an incredible area to live in Central Kentucky. It's beautiful. We've seen a lot of growth. I mean, Georgetown is growing, unbelievable. There was a point in time too when Friday night, Thursday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday or Monday, no matter when you played, that gym was packed. We played in the eighth region for a long time. Nobody liked Scott County, and as Steve Spurrier said, if you got a lot of buddies, that means you're doing something wrong. Nobody liked us. Nobody liked Scott County because we had had some success, and so for us to be able to win like that for so many years, it's just it's all about your kids. We were been really blessed to have some really talented kids come to the program, and Tara and I to get to go to the gym and hang out together, and then watch Colton. His first steps were in the gym, and he's
It's
grown up
awesome.
with us. It truly is a family mentality.
So the up tempo style play that you guys have, one thing that's always stood out about your teams was you guys play fast, you attacked, you pressure defenses, you guys let your kids play with confidence and freedom. Why was it that up tempo style so important to your program?
It's kind of all it's all I had known. Uh, from high school to Coach Hicks, playing for him at Corbin. Um, and then we went on, when I went on to Alice Lloyd with the Step Brothers. I mean, we were offensive minded, and we played with some really talented, I got to play with some really talented guys who are now superintendents and principals, and who could flat out score. There was no, we would touch on defense, but it was more of a, hey, we're going to outscore you. And, you know, we just carried that on because, Tara, she played for Coach Weathington down at Lindsey Wilson for a year, and they were open, they were open run and gun. Um, and it just fit us. I mean, it just fit our personalities. Some coaches can sit there and not say a word and watch the game. Some coaches are more animated. Our practices were intense. Our practices were run and gun. I mean, you just don't show up and run and gun. You have to practice that way. Um, and it's a fun style. I mean, it's a tough style. Conditioning was tough, but we tried to condition with the ball. We tried to build everything in we do to competition. And as we got older, I really wish we had some of our shooting stuff that we had with some of our older teams that we did with some of our younger teams because we could have. I'd like to see where some of our kids, when we had missed basketball, and if we could have went through some of the shooting stuff that we did later in our careers, I'd like to see what we could have done with some scoring. But you know, I have no issue coming in and trying to beat you 110 to 109. I have no issues with that. I mean, some people would say, "Well, you give up 109 points." Well, you also scored 110, so I will take one game. And again, along with that, we pressed, and you touched on that. And our press gave us extra possessions. In the state of Kentucky, not this year, but next year, the shot clock comes in. And I
Amen.
would love to be on the sidelines for that because, Tara and I have pressed and pressed and pressed for years to wear you down, to try to steal, to try to frustrate you, to try to force you into a bad shot. Well, now, when that shot clock comes in, you can start pressing for different reasons. You can press now just to take time off the clock and force someone into a bad shot or force someone
Mhm.
into their offense where you can't come down and run that 48 pass offense that I pull my hair out with. I mean,
Mhm.
we've had times where teams have come in and ran their offense over. I'm like, just let them score so we can get the ball back. Not really, but there's been times when I've been just like, let's go. Let's make something happen. So I think the style that we play, it's very easy to sit back and criticize when you don't win. A lot of people said, that several years people would say, let them shoot their way out of it. We've had people say, what are you doing? We've had people say, they turn the ball over too much. They throw the baseball pass. I love it. Tara loves it. You watch our JV and you watch our varsity. They do the same thing. It's not well, she does it one way, he does it the other. We do it the same way. And our kids have that freedom. I mean, we've had kids, Caitlin Clark, where we had, Morgan DeFore was Caitlin Clark long before Caitlin Clark was. And Morgan DeFore would come down and shoot logo threes, and, she would make more than she'd miss. And she had that freedom. But a lot of people were like, well, I'm not going to guard that far out. That's your choice. But um, it's just a fun style, and it's what we live with. And there's been times that teams have outscored us. There's been times where teams have slowed us down, and there's been those times when I've pulled my hair out because they were good enough to slow us down. But again, Tara, she in our practice she did a lot of guard work. I did a lot of big work. Um, her philosophy and Glenn's philosophy. I mean, we shot and we shot and we shot in our practice because that's what we do in games.
So where did that philosophy come from, Tara?
Well, I know, Steve playing for Billy Hicks, he always wanted to run and gun. And on that 98 state championship team, he had Rick Jones, that put up a lot of points and a lot of good players. And he said himself that, a lot of people criticize him for his style of play, because a lot of people see that as bad shot selection and things like that. But if it's your style, there's a system to it. And it comes for me as a player in high school. I always felt like, I played better and my team played better because we were undersized if we pressed and, spread the court, and that way we didn't have to get in a half court where we had mismatches, where we could shoot a lot of threes and press. And then, my first college choice was to go to Lindsey Wilson my freshman year to play for John Withington, and he was known for that up tempo style, and that always suited my skill set, freedom. Not being boxed into a half court system, and there's like I said, there's a time and place, but as a player myself, I like to have that freedom and not be looking over my shoulder, if I missed a shot. to be taken out or whatever. But you got to be smart about it. But at the same time, you want your players to have freedom and not be looking over their shoulder to call a play every time they come up the floor. You want to be able to read and react, make decisions, let their natural instincts take place. Because as a player in the college level, even small college, I've been there. Steve's been there. You want to play the game. You don't always want to be micromanaged. There's time and place. You got to run a play, but at the same time, you want to give kids freedom.
How does that system help develop players?
Well, Cody, Tara touched on the '98 team. About 40 minutes down the road from us, A.W. Hamilton was on that team, and his system is the most exciting 40 minutes in basketball. It's 40 minutes of run and gun, uh, just like we try to play as well. And not to say A Dub took everything Coach Hicks did, because A Dub has put his own spin on this, but that style of play, my opinion, gets kids ready for college. It gets them ready for that next level. It gets them ready for um, the speed of the game, because every level you go up in speed and strength, and physicality. We talk about the physicality of the game when you get to the college level. We talk about your body, just physically getting ready for that next level. So I think the style of play gets our kids ready for that. Because college has already got the shot clock, um, and Kentucky will soon, which again, so excited about. But I really think the way you practice, the way you play, and the way we've done it for years. A lot of our kids, even defensively, we talk a lot about offense, but our man-to-man principles are a lot about what you'll hear, at least terminology wise. Now, give it its dues. The terminology is constantly changing, but you know, when kids come into college and they know what help side is, they know how to guard on the ball, they know how to defend. Um, it definitely puts them at least a half a step in front, because college is a big transition anyway, especially in today's in today's world, when you're bringing in an 18-year-old kid, and you're going against a 24-year-old, 25-year-old man or woman playing at the next level. So the style, it'll get you ready.
How much trust did it require from you as coaches to play that style?
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's trust. It's just it's all we know. That it's what we go to bed talking about. We get up talking about. There's always this. It's a challenge. Tara and I are competitive. We'll shoot against each other, and when we
Who
play each
wins?
other.
Me.
Oh,
So the philosophy. So Cody. So what you do, Cody, is you open up this big can of worms here. But with Colton, Glenn Wilson's always said, he's the perfect storm between two very fiery and competitive people. So to give her props, we do say this: he gets his size from me and his skills from her. So, Tara could definitely. I could have coached Tara, because her mentality was, I'm gonna shoot, when I walk on the court, I'm ready to shoot. I'm ready to score. I could coach that, um, but I just think the way we play, it's knowing your kids. Um, and when you get in practice, it's again, you don't just show up and play this style. You practice this style. You play it in the summer. You take chances throughout, and you learn from those chances. We do watch film, not as much as we used to. I mean, film now between huddle and synergy. You can break clips down. You don't watch the entire game film. That's just totally. Kids don't have the attention span to watch an entire game. They just don't. But they will watch clips, and they'll really watch clips when it's about them. Yeah, I think the trust factor is, when you have a coach and coaches, like Tara said, if you turn the ball over, don't look at us. Don't and, we give our kids a hard time. Don't say my bad. We all know it's your bad. Just play the next play. We'll have kids, they'll miss a shot or miss two, three shots, and they'll start looking at us. Shoot. Don't worry about us. Shoot the ball. When you get tired, let us know. Probably the biggest thing they'll get you took out is when you miss a shot and you let the whole gym know you missed a shot. That's not a big deal to us. So the trust factor is those kids know that we got their back. Those kids know that we trust them to make the best decision they can. And if they don't, then let's make it the next time.
So a lot of your former players talk about the confidence they played with. You talk about it. They most of them don't seem afraid to make the mistakes because they knew you guys believed in them. So how important was trusting your program, and then how do you balance accountability with the freedom that you gave your players?
Practice. I mean, that was done through practice. We had expectations, whether it was defensive assignments, whether it was offensive assignments. Um, and that was through practice. That was through the film work. That was through the scouting reports. Um, the accountability that we held our kids high to was, getting it done in the classroom. Um, we were very, if there was an area that we didn't waver was the classroom. Get the job done in the classroom first. And when you are in the classroom, act right. We had very defined roles, or I don't want to say rules, but we had expectations for our kids, and guess what? They're kids. So when I say the word kids, kids make mistakes. Believe it or not, adults make mistakes. Kids make mistakes. When a kid makes a mistake, you don't throw them away. That's a teaching moment, um, and that's what we live with. I made mistakes repeatedly. You know, Tara may say she don't, but Tara makes some really bad mistakes repeatedly on the sidelines.
Mhm. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time, and when I say that, at the time, she and I both will say this. At the time we make something happen or we say something, it's the right decision. Whether it be a substitution, maybe it be a set, maybe it be a timeout or not taking a timeout. But when you go back and watch that film, or you go back after the game once the fire has cooled off, you're like, boy, I really messed up. And I did that a lot. At the time, it was the right decision. And then I would go back and say, wow, I really should have done this, A, B, and C. It's just like our kids. Our kids' expectations were get it done in the classroom, act right, on and off the court, represent yourself just like you represent the program. And then when we get on the court, we're going to work it out. We're going to work it out together. Um, I never coached a perfect game. I don't think our kids ever played a perfect game. But daggone it, we had fun and we tried to. We tried and we worked toward perfection, but I don't think we ever got there yet. And not to say, that's where we're at. We're competitive. Tara and I are competitive. We'll compete with you at Kroger. If it's getting to the truck on buggies, we'll race buggies. If it's racing go karts at Gatlinburg or Myrtle Beach, if it's running on the beach, we'll compete. If we're playing against Colton, we will compete to beat him in order to prove a point that we still got it.
We probably can't
And
now. Maybe when he was younger.
but at the time, we still think we can.
Yeah.
And Tara and I mean, if the truth be known, there have been a many a time before Colton when we were both a little younger. I mean, we had some one-on-one games that probably most marriages couldn't withstand.
Y'all talk a lot of
But
junk.
Oh yeah.
she does.
Oh
She
okay.
does, and she's the
Yeah.
smallest player. I mean, she's barely 5'2", and I'm 6'6",
I'm 5'3". Thank you.
barely.
What's that say when she could beat you though? You're 15 inches taller, man.
I'm married though. We're still
No.
married, so that's
No.
why. I mean,
No. I
we
take you out.
I
I take you outside. I can beat you outside perimeter game. You beat me inside. I can't guard you inside.
so, but Cody, but that's it. That's what our kids see. Our kids see two people that are real, two people that love each other, two people that fuss, two people that are competitive, and they'll rip your head off to win a game.
We're gonna
That's
show
what
our emotions.
I mean, if I'm mad, you're gonna know I'm mad. If Tara's mad, you're gonna know she's mad. And that's where the trust and the accountability with our kids. If a coach gets a technical, they run. Just like if a player gets a technical, they run. And we'll show them that we hold ourselves accountable just like they do. Granted, we're not out there on the court, we're not scoring for them, we're not making the pass, but I think our kids realize that, and I think they respect that. We're in this together, and we have never ever tried to come off with, "Hey, what we do is perfect, and we're the only ones that can do this." It's not that way. It's a fun system. It does take some trust, and it does take a lot of accountability. But we do that, and we build that over time.
So, when I think about your numbers, you think about the championships, but you also think about the accomplishments that the players had. Two Gatorade Players of the Year, the Kentucky Miss Basketball, the numerous college athletes, and the generations of successful student athletes. So, what separates or separated great players from your average players?
I'm gonna chime in on this one. I think work ethic. Obviously, you gotta have some natural ability, and we were very blessed with that. But our best players always wanted to get in the gym, always wanted to stay late, get there early, always put in the extra work. So I think work ethic, uh, separated, the good players to the great players. Definitely work ethic.
So, how much emphasis do you guys put on skill development?
A lot, a lot. Uh, you know, every day we're going to stretch. And that's one of those things we kind of evolved over time. In our younger years, we're ready to roll, but we do put a lot of time into our stretching program now. And then as soon as we get done stretching, on most days, unless it's right in tournament time, and we're just going over a few things for getting ready for the very end of the season, we go right into our fundamental and our skills work. Um, our scrimmaging, believe it or not, our scrimmaging 5-on-5 is limited. What we've done in years past, we do a lot of skills work. We do a lot of breakdown work with 1-on-1, 2-on-2s, 3-on-3, and 4-on-4 build-ups. Uh, we did do what we called Arizona series, which was a 4-on-4 defensive half court. Um, Very little of our practices is there a standing in line. I hate lines in practice. I hate standing in practice. That's why our staff was so important to us, because everyone had a job, everyone knew what they were going to do. They came in ready, and kids didn't stand around. We did a lot of breakdown stuff where if you come watch our practice, very few times will you ever see a line just kids watching or without a ball. Our groups were small, and it was about development, because when you go back to what Tara talked about, if you can't pass, shoot, and dribble, nothing we do is going to work. So, uh, skill development is huge to us. And we're not shot doctors. We're not the ones who come down and break your shot down. And what we're going to do, we came in with the mentality of you got to do what makes you comfortable, how you feel comfortable. Do we tweak some things? Yes. Maybe an elbow, maybe a wrist, maybe your hips, something very minor. Because when it comes down to it, you got to be comfortable out there as a player. You got to play your way. You got to be able to shoot the ball your way. But skill work to us, I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy it right now. I'm 52, and I'll come out. And I love rip series. We'll put Colton through a rip series, and we'll rip until he's tired of ripping, because it's just a fundamental skill that um, I think gets overlooked a lot. Everybody wants to run and gun and shoot the three and do all this and that, but if you don't have the skill to do that, or if you don't have the practice to do that, and you don't put that practice to live motion. Yes, we do a lot of cone work. We also do a lot of live body work. Our 2-on-2s, our 1-on-1s, because in a run and gun system, you got to be able to catch and score 1-on-1, 2-on-2, because you're going to be in transition a lot. So you have that advantage with 4-on-3s, 5-on-4s. We do a lot of up tempo, which We got skill, conditioning, accountability. We joined it all in together, and we didn't go 2 hours. Tara can probably count on her hands and toes how many times we come in and said we're going 2 hours. Usually it was an hour and a half, hour and 40. As we got down to tournament time, we were down to an hour. We would still be doing skills, just a little shorter, because we, trying to take care of our kids' bodies.
What habits did your elite players have?
I think like Tara said, the biggest deal was they were gym rats. Uh, they were in the gym. Um, you know, we just got a shooting machine recently. We never had a shooting machine. The shooting machine was Tara and I rebounding, or we had some dads back in the day, and we had some moms back in the day who were rebounders. We were. It was a family atmosphere out there. I mean, kids who wanted to stay extra, kids who would get there early. That was what we did. We rebounded. I think they were students of the game too. Um, I think a lot of our kids, because they would give me a hard time about North Carolina. North Carolina get beat. They would be sending me text. But what that did was they were watching it. They were
They're
watching
actually
the
watching
game.
the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a little before the phone situation where we live and die on TikTok now and whatever else we have. But um, they would watch the games and send me text when you could send a text before SB 181. They would send text and giving me a hard time, and then sometimes they would say, "Hey, we heard the announcer say something that you say," or "We seen North Carolina run the back pick
Secondary
lob,
or secondary
secondary
break.
break, like we used to, like we ran." And that meant so much because they were listening, they were watching, and they wanted to be that next level player. And I think that's the old cliche is everybody wants to be that next level player until they see how much work it takes, and then they're like, "Hey, I'm good with being average." Our elite players, and we had a bunch. We had a bunch. We had elite kids and we had elite parents, and it was and those kids, we try to stay in touch with all of our kids. Definitely, that is when we do get together. They bring up memories and they'll talk about stuff that Tara did, and they'll remember, coming over to the house for our ritual where before district tournament, they'd come over to the house. Before regional tournament there for a while, we'd grill, we would watch a movie, uh, some type motivational movie. They will remember that sometimes more than they will a certain game. And that kind of stuff means a lot. It means a lot to us because we talk about family. We try to live that in front of those kids, and then when they go on and they're coaching their kids and they tell us stories now, it means a lot.
So let's go back to your memories. Um, the ones that come to mind immediately come to your mind. Tara, what's your favorite region championship?
Our favorite region championship, probably our very first one. In 2001, we were in the eighth region, and we were at Shelby County High School, and we were playing Oldham County High School in the championship, and we weren't supposed to be there. It was supposed to have been Shelby County against Oldham County. They already, had their bus lined up that night because they weren't supposed to win, but we had upset them, and we were in the championship. And it was our very first regional championship. It was our first year, Steve being the head coach, and we surprised a lot of people. And as a kid in Kentucky, whether you're on the girls' side or the boys' side, you grow up dreaming of playing in the Sweet 16 or coaching in the Sweet 16. And it was just very exciting. I had never had an opportunity to be in the state tournament. And Steve had as a player at Corbin with Coach Hicks, and I was at Estill. So I never had that opportunity, but I really remember that. And I was just so excited as a coach, and I was so excited for our players because no one expected us to be there, and they were really hard workers, and we had some talent, but it probably, I mean, nothing against that team, but it probably wasn't our most talented team over those 25-year span. But we surprised a lot of people, and you always remember that first regional championship more than any.
So, Steve, what about your favorite district championship?
All of them, every
All of
one of
them.
them. Probably the ones I remember the most are the ones we didn't win. In which we should have won. But 15 district championships. Every one of them meant something. Every one of them was special. Just like Tara said, they on 5 regional championships. They were all special.
So, what about your favorite state tourney moment or memory?
Oh goodness. I probably goes back to probably a memory that we. I guess it's one of those moments where when you go back and you start thinking about woulda, shoulda, coulda. Our last trip was 2019, I believe. Um, and we were offensively, we were talented. We had size, we could shoot the ball, um, and daggone it, the absolute perfect storm happened that night or the night before, and Owensboro Catholic won, and they were a little bigger than us. They were able to control the tempo against us, and I think that is because we came in thinking we could win a state championship this year. Um, 2010 we were in the state championship. We were in the state championship. Shouldn't have been in the state championship, but we were because we hit that stride right at the right moment. 2019, I think people were saying, "Hey, they could win a state championship this year," and I think that one sticks with me because that was the moment that I think I wish I woulda, coulda, shoulda moment playing that night against Owensboro Catholic, which they had a great game plan, and you know we walked off that court that night, and Tara and I held hands because you never know when you're going to have a chance to get back there. It's a special time, and we were to get there. We were able to get there 5 times as coaches. You know, I was in 1991. I got to go as a player, so I always give Tara a hard time. I got to go as a player and a coach, so it's a special moment. But especially, I think 19 when we walked off the court holding hands and turned around, and it was just a night that I, you just can't put into words.
So, what about your most emotional win?
Tara, you want that one?
Uh, Probably in 2010, the state tournament was at WKU, Western Kentucky, and we were playing Boone County in it was the semi, was it the, hold on.
Quarters. It was a quarter round.
It was the quarterfinals. It was the quarterfinals, and Randy Moss's daughter played for Sydney Moss. Randy Moss's daughter was playing for Boone County, and she was a heck of a player. Uh, and Were we down by two? We were down
We were
by
down
two.
2.
We
Yep.
were down by two in overtime. And Kristen Steinbach, our two guard, who ended up going to Austin P and playing, she came down and she shot probably a 30-footer, uh, a 3-pointer right in front of our bench. She thought we needed a three, and we were only down by two. So she went for the three. She went for all the money. She hit it. The horn went off. We went on to the Final Four in the state tournament. But I remember, it's one of those things where you kind of, you got to act like you've been there before as a coach, and be professional. But it's one of those things where your heart speeds up and, you get excited, for the kid and for the team. But it's definitely a neat feeling and a great memory.
So, what about the most rewarding season for you guys?
I think Cody. I think, and I'm going to give you the PC answer on this one. I think every season has its own moments. I think every season you have your own growth. Uh, you have your own ups and downs. I mean, that 19 team, Tara, I believe we were what 30 something and two, 30 something and three.
34 and
Uh,
2, I think.
30,
Something like
we
that.
won every single tournament we were in except for the state championship. But even with that team, we had our ups and downs. Our first year, we had our ups and downs. There was a streak there for a while. We had uh, went to the regional tournament. Uh, you know, 14 out of 15 years, or 16 out of 17 years, and we had that moment where we didn't go. But that didn't mean that year was a failure. Uh, we each team has its own challenges. Each team has its own rewards. Um, you know, when you go back in time, and Tara's done a really good job. She's kept a lot of memories, and from every year we've coached, we've kept every media guide we've ever coached, we've got. And to go back and look, it brings back those memories. And hopefully our kids do too. Hopefully they'll be able to, look at that and say, I remember this, or I remember this. So that's why I would think every team we've had, every year, they've had some kind of rewarding experience in coaching, on and off the court.
So if you guys could relive one game from your past tomorrow, what game would that be?
Steve, you
I'm
want to
going
go
back.
with?
I'm going back to 2010 in that daggone state championship game. That's when we played the second game, because Kentucky plays. Well, that year we played the morning and night session, so you played two games in one day. Um, and Mercy had played that morning. Louisville Mercy and Mark Evans, who's a dear friend, they played that morning. They won their game a little easier um, than our game with Rockcastle County, which ended up being just an emotional roller coaster. Time runs out, we win the game, and there's some confusion. Did the time run off? Did the time not go off? We're trying to get our kids off the court because we got to turn around and play in 6 hours. Well, we got the big idea. Well, let's go out and eat.
Huh.
And so we go to Applebee's. We're at Western Kentucky, and we're at Applebee's, and Mark's, he'd already beat us there. His team's back at the hotel, and for some reason, it was the slowest day in history at Applebee's. And some way, somehow, I wish to goodness we'd have just went to Subway and took it back to them at the hotel, or took them something back to the hotel and just got them rested off their legs, because with the style that we play, Mercy played the same style. Uh, and so about midway through the third quarter, we ran out of steam. And if there was a game that we could ever go back and replay, I would love to go back and just replay from the horn going off at that morning session with Rockcastle, and just replaying the rest of that day, just to say, hey, what if we would have, what if? And we'll always have to live with what if on that one. But a tremendous 2010 state championship game, memories that Tara and I laugh about. We coach at Scott County. My name is Steve Helton, so they announced me as Scott Shelton. The biggest game of our careers. Tara and I, Colton had just been born. He was just a few months old, and parents and our parents and other parents had him somewhere in the arena. And here we go, and here's the game, and they bring Coach Mark Evans to the center court, and Scott Shelton,
Yeah.
and that's a laugh that again we'll never forget, in 2010.
So what about the toughest opponent you guys ever faced?
Tara.
Uh, I would go with probably Lexington Catholic. Uh, when we were in the eighth region, we had to end up playing Lexington Catholic in the state tournament in 2005, and they ended our season in the quarters. I think, right, Steve? Quarterfinals.
Yeah.
That's Coach Greg Todd, one of our great coaching friends who coaches at EKU now. But we coached against him for a long, long time. Uh, and then, the next year we moved to the 11th region. And for like a 3 year span, 4 year span, us and Lexington Catholic girls were number one and number two in the state of Kentucky, back and forth. And we were both ranked in the USA Today. Uh, and, he had players go D1. We had players go D1. He's even had a player, who's a Harlem Globetrotter now. Lexington Catholic does, Brianna Green. So all of our girls went against them, and it was just like they were kind of our nemesis. There for a few years, 4 or 5 year span. They ended our season, and that's a tribute, to Greg Todd. He's a great coach, great program. But I would say, year in year out there for a while, that was our toughest opponent.
What about your favorite gym?
Oh, that's easy. There's there's only one gym in the state of Kentucky or in the country that I think Tara and I both agree on is the old Scott County High School. Um, that gym, um, not only the games that we've had there, but the players who have come through that gym. Um, if that gym could talk, I would love to hear some stories. That it's a special place. We laughed and um, Coach Glenn, who was with Coach Hicks for a while, he made the joke he would love to take the rims from the old Scott County High School and bring it to the new Scott County High School because it was a special place. Yes, it's probably the first time that we experienced coaching at that level, Tara and I, but that gym, the
It was
talent
home.
that's walked, yeah, it was
It was
home,
home.
and,
It was home.
and the talent that walked in that gym, who played in that gym, not just for Scott County, but the opponents on both the boys and girls side. That's a no brainer. 100% Scott County High School, the old gym.
So, what about your favorite coach?
Well, I'm going. I'm going to Carolina. I'm going to college ranks. Coach Hicks, when Jared Carter played for Coach Hicks, he knew how big a Carolina fans we were. Jared Carter was getting some initial looks by Carolina, so we play Anderson County that night, and so after school he said, "Why don't you and Tara go pick Roy Williams up?" And of course, the rest is history. I never stopped smiling the entire time. Roy Williams flies into Georgetown Airport on a little, I call it a crop duster with his booster.
It's private
Tara and
plane.
his little private plane. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way I could have fit in that plane, but he flies in with his booster, and he gets out, and there's Tara. We're both just smiling ear to ear, and there's Roy Williams, and you know, I'm all excited. I'm thinking he's going to ride up front with me, and he's going to, we're going to be talking stories, and we're going to be telling stories because they just played Duke the night before,
And got
and
beat.
got beat. So Rebecca Gray's dad, who was Miss Basketball, sent us a list of things not to ask Coach Williams on the ride in, and just had a big laugh about it. But Roy Williams jumps in the back with Tara in her SUV, and the booster jumps up front with me, and I'm like, really, you took my night. That was my special evening to ride up front with Roy Williams. But Roy Williams, he was the most incredible, gracious man. He acted like he'd known us for years. He signed stuff for our kids that night. He come over and met Anderson County's coach, Tony Case at the time. Just so sweet, just so innocent, and we base a lot of what we do off him. But my favorite college coach is actually Coach Roy Williams.
What about you, Tara?
My favorite coach is probably Pat Summit. The program she built, Tennessee, she was a pioneer of women's basketball at that time, and she sustained her success. So I attended her camps a couple times, and she's no nonsense. When she stares at you, you better do what you're supposed to do. And she was just always a role model, and I admired the way she handled her program.
Do you guys have a most memorable team?
I think every team had those moments, um, and not always on the court. Like I said, I think some of the members we had were on the bus. We had some teams. We got stuck in a snowstorm on the way to Myrtle Beach one year.
The Beach Ball
Our
Classic.
the Beach Ball Classic. Dr. Dallas Blankenship. He told us to go on down a day early to beat this big snowstorm. And that team and those parents still talk about today how we got stuck in a snowstorm on our way to the beach ball classic. Some parents and some players talk about, the wins we had. Some of them talk about some of the wins we didn't have. Some of them talk about some of the practices we had. We had some lock-ins where we practiced, at midnight. We had some, when the kids would come over. We went and rode go-karts together in the summer when we went down to North Carolina's team camp. So definitely, I think of all those memories are depending on the team, depending on that year, but they all had something special.
So, One word to describe Scott County basketball.
I would say family.
How about you, Steve?
I don't think there's no other word. It's family.
So when people talk about Steve and Tara Helton years from now, they'll mention your wins, championships, awards, and your records. But what do you hope your true legacy is?
I would love for someone to say somewhere down the line, and maybe somewhere down the line look at Colt and say, "Hey, we remember your parents coaching. We remember your parents being fierce competitors that cared about their kids, that loved their kids, and their kids knew they loved them." Um, I think that's what means something to us. I mean, because that's who we are. We are fierce competitors, but we love our kids. Um, whether you score 30 a game or whether you don't get in the game, you're our kids. And we had parents who entrusted those kids to us, and we're so appreciative of the opportunities that we had. And we're looking forward to what's next for us. We're looking forward to that next challenge. But definitely, I hope somewhere down the line they'll say, "Man, they could flat out get up and down the court. They were intense." But one thing you could always say, they love those kids.
Tara, what impact do you hope you had on your players?
I hope that I was a positive role model for them. Hopefully I taught them a lot about the game of basketball, but hopefully I taught them to be a better person, uh, a better, you know, sister, mother, whatever in life, how to handle adversity. Because, I mean, you think about a basketball game, you think about practice, you think about the ups and downs of the season. There's going to be days where there's going to be a lot of adversity. There's going to be nights when you play horrible. There's going to be, you get bad calls. Things aren't going to go your way. How are you going to respond? And hopefully, uh, them seeing how we dealt with frustration and things that go on will prepare them more for life by going through, seasons and the ups and downs of a basketball season. So hopefully I've been able, and, Coach Helton's been able to prepare them uh, for what life has to bring because, basketball is just a precursor to life to get you ready.
So what does success mean to you two today?
Success to us is when you have your kids call and they're like, "Coach, I get it now. I get what you were trying to tell us then." Success is when you have those kids are coaching now. Those kids are adults. Those kids are teachers. They're lawyers. They're doctors, and they come back. I had the chance today to see I teach with one of our kids' moms at Wimburn Middle School, and Alasia was there today seeing her mom, and I got to see Alasia and her son, and she's like, Coach, I love you, Coach. I miss you, Coach. That's what it means to us. You know, that, the wins, whatever, uh, but it's about that you were trying to teach us, and hey, it's tough. I mean, you're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Those kids, they think they know a lot more than you do at the time, and sometimes they do. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're right. Um, but it means the world when you see them after school, when you see them grown up with their families, and you think, "Wow, I'm so proud of them. So proud of what they've become." As Tara said, as parents, um, as their profession that they have chosen to go into, and we've had several go into coaching, and it's we laugh because they tell us stories now about their teams. I'm like, yeah, we had some teams like that too.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on. So that's Coach Steve Helton, one of Kentucky's all-time winningest coaches with 485 victories, 5 region championships, 15 district championships. You had multiple Coach of the Year honors and a career that has impacted generation of players, multiple generations of players. And Coach Tara Helton, you had 375 career victories, 7 undefeated seasons. That's amazing. Hall of Fame honors, championship success, and one of the most respected coaches Kentucky's ever produced. Together, you guys have built a championship culture at Scott County that became known for player development, trust, and an exciting up-tempo style play, and has sustained excellence for 25 years. Most importantly, they proved that great coaching is great coaching, whether it's boys basketball, girls basketball, college basketball, or high school basketball. Success leaves a trail, and few coaching families in Kentucky basketball history have left the trail quite like Steve and Tara have. Thank you both for joining me today. For everyone listening, make sure you subscribe to Pure Prospects on Substack. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Also, subscribe and like our YouTube channel. You can follow us everywhere for recruiting coverage, player evaluations, and basketball content. Steve, you guys, where can they find you guys on social media, or where can they find you too?
Well, I think that's where I'll lean on Tara a little bit more than me.
Uh, we're both on Twitter, and we're both on Instagram as well. And I'm also on Facebook. So Tara Helton, Steve Helton. Steve Helton is not on Facebook. He's Facebookless.
Oh,
But
really?
yes, but I am. He's on Twitter and Instagram.
Tara does a good job keeping me up to date.
You don't know the news if you're not on Facebook, Steve.
Right.
I know, I know, I know. I'll get there someday.
But no, I really do appreciate you two coming on, and hopefully I can catch up with you two soon.
Thank you so much for having us, Cody. You do a great job.
All right, see you
Sure.
guys.
See you, Cody.
Thank you. See you, Cody.
See you guys.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.